Good morning, beautiful people. Welcome to day 36 of A Diary of a Multifaceted Mama. Welcome to this vlog series where my goal is to just be transparent about what it is to be a multifaceted woman, mom, minority, therapist, business owner, entrepreneur, blah, 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 right? Like all of the different roles, responsibilities, labels, outfits that we put on each day, our identities, and how multifaceted they are, and that although there are many things in life that can be more simple than we make them out to be, that doesn't mean that it's all easy or that it can be simple to find that clear-cut, simple way of seeing things, of doing things, of being and living in this world. If that just confused you, that's okay. It took me a long time to figure that out. So sit with that if it resonates with you and you want to feel that out. But today is the day's just beginning, actually. It's about 5 o'clock in the morning, and a baby has not been sleeping well the past few nights. So that means neither have I. She had been sleeping well for a little bit, and then there was a change, and it was up and down, and so she was sleeping well again, and now she's not sleeping well again. So definitely am feeling some of that, not getting that like deep, restful sleep that I am accustomed to. But I am I think overall also I've been like in my head a little bit more, and probably in part because of the less sleep, and also in part because I can feel that I am like making some distinctions about like what direction I want to go, not what direction I want to go in. Like, okay, so I really pride myself on practicing what I preach. And what I preach is not the cookie cutter kind of 50-50 or pie cutting type of balance that a lot of people talk about in mainstream. I don't agree with that. I preach more of an ebb and flow of balance. I teach, not preach. I teach more of an ebb and flow of balance because that's the way nature intended it, for there to be an ebb and a flow. It's not 50-50. It's not a piece of pie that's all cut up into these even slices for all of the pieces of your life, or that's not balance. And it's definitely not juggling all of the things all at once. That's not balance. It's not about a juggling act. It's about being able to have a sense of structure and flexibility all at once as life ebbs and flows around you. And so there's been ebbing and flowing in a more frequent way recently, rather than it being like a slower, steadier ebb and flow. It's been a faster pace ebb and flow recently, inside of my head, and about like coming back to home and clarifying more and more and more. This is definitely a year of refinement. If you've heard me say that before, I still believe that to be true. What am I putting out into the world, and why? And I ask myself that question all the time. So often I ask myself that question in relation to how I'm showing up as a mom. Like, why do I want to interact this way? How do I want to interact with my kids? How do I want to show up when they're having a hard time? Like, I ask myself those questions. And also in my, I want to say business, but I don't want to say business because it's not about my businesses. It's about really that's just one avenue for how I'm showing up. And I want to be really clear and intentional about how I'm showing up in the world, whether that's through my work with clients or through my speaking or through my news media when I'm showing up on the news, or through my interactions in the communities or in the school setting or whatever the case is. Like, I want to be really intentional about that. So I've been thinking about that at a deeper level again, and I circle back around to that often. And that is where I have been feeling in my head off and on a little bit more. Again, I think it's in part to not, getting the deeper sleep, but also because I'm in the news media more now. And that adds an additional layer of both responsibility and opportunity, right? To be able to reach more people with the message that, we're all multifaceted. We all have various dimensions of our identity, of our roles, of our responsibilities. And many of us have experienced some kind of trauma or chronic stress that we're dealing with, and that affects our nervous system, that affects how we are showing up as parents, as citizens, as employees, as business owners, as leaders, as achievers, as all of these different pieces of ourselves. It affects that. And so we need to be aware that chronic stress and that trauma is affecting us individually, systemically, like in our families and in our businesses, all that stuff. We need to be aware of that. And then we also need to get really courageous and do some of that challenging, scary work of healing our own traumas. Because when we do that, we can learn how to regulate our nervous systems more and more and more. We can learn how to connect with the support of our God, our universe, our higher power, our source, whatever you want to call it. We can learn how to have more faith and trust. We can learn how to feel more safe and secure. And that is going to help us to navigate this world and our relationships in a much healthier way, in a much happier way. But it's a challenge, right? But that's how we really live boldly and balanced. That's how we live bold and balanced. It takes bold decisions. It takes bold action. Sometimes it takes bold inaction in order to live a life that is more balanced, that is more authentic, that is more true to who we are and how we want to be in this world, and that lets us make the ripple connections and contributions that are really meaningful and positive and forward moving and creative and all of that good stuff. So that feels really good to me, to come back to that why and that movement and that mission that I have instilled in my heart and that I'm really passionate about. But then it can become easy for me to get in my head recently about, am I being really clear about that? Am I being confusing in how I'm showing up in the news and how I'm trying to break that down for people to be able to grasp in their own way? And ultimately, I'm not responsible for how people perceive me or receive my messages, but I am responsible for, how I show up. And that has been something that has been on my mind recently. It's really important to me that I am doing my best to show up as myself in an honest and true and transparent way, while also trying to be clear about all of the different complexities and pieces of this message and this movement, because it's really important, right? Like, how many of us have had like our own level of reactivity during times of chronic stress, or have had our own traumatic reactions come up? Sometimes we know what they are, sometimes we don't. And it's affected us. It's affected our health. It's affected how we're functioning It's affected how we're seeing things or perceiving other people. It's affected how we're interacting as parents. Like, it's affected different things, right? So while it's challenging and can be really scary and even feel daunting, or even sometimes feels impossible to broach that kind of stuff, it is so, so necessary for our healing individually and collectively, for us to move forward. I truly believe that that is how we start coming up with creative solutions that are going to help us feel, be, and work together more united in light of our differences rather than more divided in spite of our differences. And I say that because our differences are part of the variety that makes this world an absolutely beautiful place. Our differences actually help us to be stronger and to support one another in different and meaningful ways. So when we use our differences as a point of division, as a point of separation, as a way to bid us against each other, as a way to push up against each other as though we're like opposing forces, you know, it works against all of us. It works against all of us. And it's easy to get sucked into that push and pull against one another because we disagree, or because we were treated unfairly, or because of traumas that we've experienced. Because we can make a really good case about why it's okay for us to act that way or to be that way. But we can't live in reactive mode and still feel fulfilled. It can't be both at the same time. It's not possible. We need to become aware of when we are in a reactive mode because we're feeling really defensive or really attacked, or like we don't belong, or like we need to prove ourselves. Whatever the case is, we need to be aware of when that's happening for us so that we can begin to do the healing that helps us shift into a place of really claiming that we do belong here. You do belong here. You have something to offer. You are of value. And this life that you're living is meant for you to be able to live it with more joy and more fulfillment. Not without stress, not without turbulence. That's part of life. But there could be a little bit less stress. There could be a little bit less turbulence. There could be a little bit less intensity, as often as there has been, right? And there could be a little bit more joy and a little bit more fulfillment. And I believe that that helps us all to make better decisions when we're in that place of more joy and more fulfillment, more what I call core connected. And yeah. So when I talk about that, even like I can feel my mind ease. I woke up this morning after not really sleeping, so I don't know what you call that. Wasn't really waking up. I don't know. I chose to get up and out of bed. And my mind was a little bit off, you know, a little bit like not super focused. But sitting here and talking about that and sharing that with you, and then coming back to my passion, my purpose, and what I believe will help change the world, add to the world, help the world evolve in a more positive and healthier way. It eases my mind. And the same can be true for you too. When you come back into your passion, your purpose, what really feels inspiring for you and why you're here, or how you want to contribute, or how you really want to connect in a really meaningful way in your life, or even just during this time, this season of your life, not forever, it can help ease your mind. It can help bring you back to a sense of like a home base where you're like, yes, this is it. if I can connect here, if I can be reminded of this, I can move forward with more clarity in this next moment. Even if that means we get confused again or frustrated again or stressed again, right? Like I can come back to some semblance of clarity in this moment when I connect with that passion, with that purpose, with that reason that lights me up inside. So maybe that's something that's helpful for you with whatever it is that you have going on. All right, y'all, I'm going to go do some meditation to get my morning started. Maybe do some gentle yoga to stretch out this postpartum body and enjoy the sunrise on this morning when I'm now feeling much more calm and centered and relaxed. See you next time.